welcome to Flory Models. I'm Philip Flory. Today we're going to be tackling Tamiya's monster 132nd F-16. Now this is the CJ or the Block 50, also known as the Big Mouth F-16. Now this particular build we're going to be focusing more on the actual overall finish than somewhat the detailing of the aircraft. Now don't get me wrong, if you're going to build an F-16 and you want a 32nd one, this is where you're going to go. By far the most detailed. It's a lot better than the Academy version just through fit and general presence. That's not to say the Academy one's not nice, because obviously we've done the two-seat suffer with it and we turned it into something extraordinary, okay? But this particular kit does have some very nice little things with it. This one you can actually display the engine as it has been removed. It's got full internal engine detail with it removed as well, so you can look down through the intake, and as you'd expect with Tamiya, you've got beautifully detailed cockpit, wheel wells and everything. So the great thing about this kit is you don't have to go down the aftermarket route, as in replacing cockpits with resin ones, wheel wells, things like that. You can build this out of the box and end up with something really very special. So that's what we're going to do with this particular one. I've got down here some of the parts we're going to be using for this build. So to be honest, what we've got, the kit itself, as I said, this is the Big Mouth version or the Block 50. Now they do the Block, I think it's 32, which has got the small mouth version of this. Slightly different aircraft. Overall it's pretty much the same. It's just it tends to be from, you know, the sort of, you know, small parts. Bigger mouth, different engine at the back, okay? Now the reason for this one is they do it as the Thunderbird kit, which does it that way. There is different versions in between, and that's when you have to make a hybrid of both kits, but we're focusing on this one today as we make our way through with it. The bits we've got for it, first of all, we've got a couple of little bits of photo etch just to liven it up and take care of some of those areas I'm not so good at, okay? So what we've got down here is the interior set for the actual cockpit. All this really is some of those little details around there, i.e. for the fine details. So you've got things like around the display unit, some of the switchology, stuff like that. Color photo etch, so much easier to stick and put it down is. We've also got some placard set for it, okay? So again, just to give more detail, make it look a little bit nicer. So we've got some of those for the warning things, and also to the seat, just to liven it up. Down in here we've actually got some of the more detailed things, again things like pull ejection handles, harnesses, placards around that, things like that, just to liven up the seat as well. So we've got that one done in there. Decals we're going to be using for this one, because we're going to be doing it is in the have glass look, which is that very high metallic look to the paintwork on this one. The particular markings down in here don't actually carry that type of thing. So what I've got down here is a 2-bob sheet. So we've actually got it down for the Spang aircraft, okay, for the Block 50. So we're going to do a little bit of updating to it just because these markings were older ones, but it gives us all the basics we need so we can actually turn it into the aircraft we want to do it at the end of the day. All right, so those are from 2-bob 32032 on that one. And then references, we've used this book before many times, it's showing its age now, okay, but down here we've got the modern Viper guide, F-16s C's and D's exposed by this is Read Air Publications, okay, and again we have been through this book, we've reviewed it in the past, but if you need anything on an F-16, this is my go-to book, okay, without doubt. It has every single photo you could ever need and probably a lot more that you don't, but it does come up with some nice little things as well, really good for bedside reading. Like down here you can see the difference between the Big Mouth and the small mouth. You can see obviously the Big Mouth is a lot wider than the actual small mouth one as well, so it gives you a nice little insight into some of the differences between the two types of kits. But generally by using this book alone we'll be able to go through and build hopefully what will be a very nice aircraft right the way through. Now, the kit itself, we have never reviewed it, purely because I've built this kit many times before, but they're all commissions before we've done it as good builds. Generally, this one I've had for years, since it very first came out. Okay, if we can get that just to stand there like that. Giant sheet, you can put it as a poster on the wall. You have got some reference photos down in here, but this is for the actual markings you get right out of the box with it. So down in there you've actually got some of the ones that were based in Saudi Arabia around about 2003, okay, and then on this side, these are these ones we've got the Colorado ones, Tiger Meat ones for Buckley, okay, which is pretty much standard with their smaller 48 kits if you ever looked at that. As you can see down here, it starts off with the box literally flat and you're thinking what's going on. This is physically designed to actually hold your model in place for shipping afterwards. The nice thing with this kit, as you'll see, it is got plug-in parts, i.e. the tail lifts off. It's on little rubber grommets. It's great because then it will stand down in the side here, protected, and this is a transit box. So when this sinks down slightly lower, you put your model on it, you can put the box top on, and it's perfectly safe for moving it around. It's also got some little holes over on this side, and this is where you can put the trolley on for displaying the engine as a separate, but it is as simple as that. Now, instruction wise, which obviously we'll be covering it very shortly, but we just have a very quick look. As you can see, we've got the Block 50 and it opens a little bit different. It actually opens this way. Usual blurb all about it. The weapons you get down in there, so you actually get the harm. This is the actual designator or the reception pod for the actual HARM missiles, and then obviously sidewinders, AMRAAMs, HARM missile itself, jammer pods, JDAMs, fuel tanks. Okay, pretty much standard as you'd expect. Okay, straight into this one, as you can see, it is about making the actual trolley, which is what we're going to do for this little guy as well, just to put it all the way through. Be a nice touch. Right in, again, very highly detailed, and it's a functional part as well, so it's absolutely beautiful. Then the engine, you've got a fully detailed engine on this one, which we will be putting together. So again, we'll be doing that and highlighting it and weathering it and putting it right the way through. As you can see, it's extremely detailed, and you can have it as a standalone part down in there. Then it's into the main wheel well, which you'll see is actually very nicely detailed, and then a little bit of work needed just around the intakes just to make them seamless and tidy all those up, and then putting it into the actual main system. And then as you make your way through, we've got the interior details from when you have got the engine actually removed, and then making your way through the actual build. So into the nose wheel. It's a little bit clumsy around this area, but again, test fitting and you'll be absolutely fine. All right, and then literally starting to bring it together right the way through. Ours with the gear, we might be doing something a little bit special with ours because we're planning on doing it as if it's just taking off and perhaps even retracting the undercarriage. Now, I know people have mentioned about you can't put the gear in until afterwards. Trust me, you don't have to put it in to start with. I'll show you a nice little trick to be able to fit that once it's all been completed, and that's what we're saying. I might do this one so the actually has got the gear as somewhat operational, so it can have it up and down, but it's this belly plate over here which a lot of people get confused by, but you can actually put this in afterwards. Okay. So again, right the way down in there, a little bit different because though it's only in part 27, you actually start to get on with the cockpit, which is pretty much a highlight. It's a beautiful cockpit in this one, and we'll have a look at this in detail. Again, we've got radar with this one as well, so we've got some of the parts down in there. The seats, which I have got a resin replacement, but I'm probably going to do the actual kit one just to show how well we can do it. And because ours is going to be in flight, we are going to be using the pilot figure in there as well. That's somewhat why I haven't bothered to go down the sort of, you know, detailing the cockpit too much, because by the time we've actually got the pilot figure in there, you're not going to really see it. Okay, so the cockpit section goes in, as you can imagine. If you've ever built the 48th one, it goes exactly the same way. Okay, so you're going to be popping that all in, but you do have a slight difference because of the gun. Okay, so the gun actually goes in. Then we've got the little system at the top, which is how you're going to plug in the actual tails down into there. Two halves together usually is a dream, never a problem. Same with the actual wing fit as well, making sure you get those all important poly caps in, because again the weapon pylons are removable. Okay, and then just generally working your way down through the system, popping it all in, okay, and making our way down. Top part of the HUD system, which will plugs in from the top, okay, and again goes in with a poly cap. Fitting the gun, which is another nice touch if you're going to have it displayed open and that. We're personally not, so you can just, if you wanted to, with the actual Gal gun, you can just put in the end if you wanted to. And not mess around with the other. The actual flaps and flaperons, I think they're on the F-16, being fitted in, as you can imagine, right the way through the end, and then it's showing about installing the engine, the tail being fitted down, speed brakes, again, if you wanted to, there is some very nice aftermarket resin ones. But honestly, I don't think it needs it. Okay, canopy masking, we do get the masking set, as you'll see in there, so you'll see all about that. Again, internal framework, so you don't have to worry about painting the inside of the frame. And then fitting the cockpit, obviously for us, we will be having it closed, as we will have the nose section closed as well. Weapons, as you can imagine, pretty much standard right the way through, very high quality, as you can imagine. Weapons fit, putting them in, and then again, boarding ladders, things like that, nice touches, and you even get little chocks with it, okay, and you even get the removable flight tags, okay, so you can pop those on and put them in all the way around it as you like. And then down here, it's showing you about this all-important base unit where you can take the top off, the base, and then it will, by putting the flaps down, turn this into a little travel box, which is absolutely fantastic. And then usual thing, you got your parts out of the way. It is actually, considering it's a big kit, very, very straightforward. As I said, I've actually built, this would be my 6th one I've built in this scale. And again, I've had no problems with any of them ever going together. It's just that thing, keeping alert, making sure you've got good areas. Tolerances are pretty tight on this one, so making sure you've sanded properly, everything's smooth, and if you have done it with paint, to have those put in there. Now, I'm not going to go through all the screws as you'd imagine, but to be honest, you don't get too many down in here, as you say. You'll see all the great detail as we put all this one together, as it makes its way through. And again, it's all very, very nicely done right the way through these. And again, we've got weapons and various things down in there. And then the difference is, as I say, this is the big mouth intake. To be honest, I have got the small mouth intake for it as well. Then you'll get a box which has got the metal weight for the nose. Again, if you're doing it in flight like we're going to do, you might not want to put the metal weight in because it just adds stress where you don't want it. And we do get a metal undercarriage, as well as we do get rubber tyres with all your grommets and things in there like that. Separate one-piece moulded nose is always a little beautiful thing to be had. Okay, we get the tinted canopy, or you can have the clear, depending on which one you want to do. And then, as you imagine, you've got some bits down in there. We've got the little name pad just down in there as well, and a couple of photo etch parts again for the actual harnesses, the radome, and then you've got the chaff bucket areas on those just like that. And we got a little bag down in here which has got the mask set in there, a few of the small clear parts, but a lot of the pins which actually hold a lot of this together. The pylons all have weapons pins which hold them in, so it's nice so you can pull them on and off for travel, things like that. It makes things a lot easier. And the all important tail section screws, there's a few screws in this as well, just holding it all together and things like that. So generally it is going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a good old build, this one. Really looking forward to getting into the actual paint section and having a go with that, because it's a new thing. I've never done it before, or not on this type of thing, and we haven't used the MR paints actually with this one as well. Talking of paint, pretty standard, Tamiya for the normal colours, and we use MRP for everything else. There's only a handful of colours which are going to be going on with this particular one, but we're talking about those when we get a little bit nearer the time. So let's clear this all away, get the reference material out, and get on with the build. Okay, so that's the plan. Now it's on with the build. Now, there's a couple of little things with this particular kit we spoke about before, very, very nice. One of them is the ability to actually have the engine displayed out of the model. So if you're making a little diorama, or you just want it to sit on your shelf and in your cabinet and have a little bit more sort of, you know, stare appeal, what's going on there, things like that, you can actually remove the engine and have it sat on its own little dolly to be towed around and for maintenance and things like that, which is a beautiful little touch with this kit. Or at any point you can actually refit it into your model and have it as a whole. It's actually one of these sort of strange little things that actually is a working part on this particular model. Now, from our point of view, as you look through the instructions and you start away on this one, you are greeted down here with actually building up the actual truck little unit, okay, for actually towing this thing around and go all the way through, as you can see down on there, before we move on to the engine parts. Now, because I wanted to sort of get in the mojo of it all, and again, it's not exactly technical stuff, we've already put it together. So we've put this little guy down in here, okay, and as you can see, it actually has a working slider as well for fitting it in and out. I haven't glued any of this together yet, because purely we want to do it as in we can actually have it sprayed up and we can decide how we want it to be displayed. You do get two alternative sizes, so you can actually have it in the high position or the low position if you want to actually set the engine up. So it's almost like a working part again, gives you lots of options. Okay, now we're going to paint this, but because we need to do it metal and obviously sort of military green as well, we might as well do it whilst we do the engine. But I thought it would be a nice little thing that we can actually take the engine out, show it, but from our point of view, we're probably going to have it installed and we're not going to see it. All right, but again, nice little touch. Thank you, Tamiya, for giving us some items like that. Now, the engine itself, again, we might have to reinforce some of this if we're going to do it for an in-flight display, purely because we're thinking having this thing in a sort of takeoff position, or it's just off the ground bringing up its gear. So from that point of view, we might have to super strengthen the actual engine mount, how it goes in, because obviously that's how it's going to be fitted. But for the moment, what we're going to do is show putting the engine together and how you go about fixing and weathering an actual sort of genuine engine. So from our point of view, again, looking at our fantastic little guidebook we spoke about earlier, down here in the Modern Eagle guide, we have got the one for the General Electric engine, which this is. Because this is a Block 50, okay, it actually has the General Electric engine. Remember, if it ends in a 2, it will have one of these, which is the Pratt & Whitney engine, okay? So with the Pratt & Whitney one, you've actually got down in here is the F100 type, so you've actually got the 220 and the 200 series, and obviously the later one will will have the 229 version of it. The biggest difference is, as you can see on the turkey feathers on the back, okay, it's slightly different, and the intake. The intake is actually smaller with the actual Pratt & Whitney engine. Because the General Electric engine needs a little bit more power, you can actually see it actually will have the big mouth, which is what we're doing, which is the Block 50, okay? So down in here, this is the F-110 General Electric 129 engine, and again, looking at the turkey feathers at the back, you can see these are the nice, smooth, polished ones versus what you actually get with the other version of this, which is, say, you've got the black ones for the later 229 engine, okay, but the earlier models of the engine has this totally different turkey feathers on the back. So if you ever wanted to know the difference, easiest way is to look at the back, or it's a big mouth or a small mouth version, okay? But without having them side by side, it's a bit difficult to see. Now, as you can see, this is it on the trolley, and this is what we're sort of going to go with ours to make it sort of look very realistic, and we can show it in and out of the actual model. So as you can see, multiple colours, but they're pretty similar all the way round. So to save a little bit of time with my build, what we're going to do, build the actual engine completely as one, and then we're going to go around and hand paint all the parts afterwards. Now, it's personal choice on this one. I have done it, to be honest, both ways multiple times before. It is just a personal preference thing of making your way through with it. There's fors and against, okay? You can put it together, spray it all in one, then go around hand painting, but then you need to have a steady hand to not actually get any of the wrong colour paint, shall we say, on other areas, or you might need to do some masking. If you're not into that, you can actually paint them all as separate and put them in afterwards. Drawback from that, though, is the little glue marks and things like that that can be found putting them in. Again, it's not a structural part of this. What you could actually do is PVA glue it together. That's a nice little trick, because obviously if you're putting on separate things, you don't have to worry about paint bleed, and you certainly won't have to worry about glue marks, because you can just clean them up with a damp Q-tip or cotton bud to get rid of any excess glue, and you'll be good to go. So what I'm going to do now is just going to pop this thing together as a complete whole, okay, and then we'll come together, have a look, and work out which bits will be easier to do afterwards. We have got some little ones, like for instance, we do have all of these little guys that are going to run around the outside here. As you can see, they're all yellow, so it's far easier to put those on afterwards. And then other areas, obviously, such as around the back where we've got the black ring, things like that, and some cabling and stuff, which we're going to add to liven this up, we'll do completely as a separate thing. But for the moment, what we're going to do is just pop all this together. Okay, so as you probably saw, the engine itself goes together extremely well. We are talking Tamiya, we're building Tamiya, we'd expect nothing less. But honestly, this engine section goes together like an absolute dream. I've never had any problems putting any of these together. As I say, I've built a few in my time. The only thing you do want to do though is make sure that the seams are all really, really nice, okay? So if you have got any glue marks, and there is a few on this one because of obviously the technical way it goes together, what you want to make sure is though that you've polished them out. Now the reason for doing that is we're going to be giving this a metal coat. So by giving it a metal coat, what's going to happen is you're going to make everything stand out like a sore thumb. So if you're coming in with anything like a washes, it's just going to exaggerate. So any problems you got, you want to take care of them. You don't have to do everywhere. There is some little shortcuts to this one, namely on the top here. What we've actually got is all this sort of work for the pumps and the various things up here. What it is it hides the seam that actually runs right the way down the middle here. So that is absolutely fantastic, okay? On the underside, again, it's very nicely hidden because we've got this plate which actually fits in there, which draws that eye away from that area. And you can see the join is actually there. If you can see it in through, there's a slight wobble in the lines as it goes through, but no problem. But what you want to do is just take them out. So the easiest way for that is just using the blue, the medium with the fine side of it, and then all we're physically going to do is just going to come round and sand them out. So we've got this little seam just running down in through here, okay? So we're just coming in with this, and again, not pushing, we're just letting the sander go back and forth. We're literally just dragging it over the seam, okay? So we're just going to do that back area, then we're going to come down into here, okay? And just making sure you get the corner down into it, so you get the actual corner areas, and you're looking for anything that's white that's sticking out and various things. Okay, so that's that one done, and then we're just going to come in here and take that one out, and again, little light rub right the way over. Now if you're getting white and you're continuously just sanding and it's always white, the chances are there's not enough glue there, okay? So again, not so much of a problem because you can just re-glue it, all right? But there we go, that goes in. Then you want to come in with something like a skinny, so we've got down a slightly worn down skinny as well. It's not a new one, and then that way this will take out the scratches that actually the sanding stick has taken out. Okay, so this is all you're doing now, is actually fixing any damaged areas you've got. So that's that one, and then we're just going to come in here, so we're butting it right up against that edge and just working it down. Again, not pushing, we're letting the sander do all the work. Okay, so that's really disappearing along there beautifully. Okay, then if you have got them, the new green ones, this is what a little device they are perfect for. You can come in and then you can just go across with them. Now this will polish the plastic up so it is just the same as the other plastic around it. Okay, so then what that is, you're not going to get any marks that are different, so you don't physically have to prime the plastic up or anything else like that. Then you can flip over to the white side and give it a little buff. Okay, and then the same down on here, so green side first, just right over it. Again, letting the sander do all the work, and as you can see, pretty much flawless now, that entire area. But just to make it the same as the rest of the plastic all around it, we're just going to flip to the white side and we're just going to polish up. And there we go, that makes that totally seamless. I don't think you can even see it now. And that is how easy it is. But it's important that you do it, because otherwise what can happen is you're going to end up with marks. So down here we've got a tiny little glue mark. Again, we're just going to come in here with the sander one. And we're just going to rub that right around, get rid of that glue mark, and then we're just going to come in with the white and we're going to polish the plastic. And now, gone, totally. Nothing there whatsoever. So that is one of the beauty things with this, but you need to do it. It's one of those things, because if you don't, what's going to happen is you're going to come in, you're going to think, right, okay, we're great, we're in a great position, we can then just put the paint on, you're going to get glue marks showing through, and then again, washes will make it come up. Now one thing you didn't see is obviously doing the actual, this guy, really straightforward. You literally just place it onto the ring, okay, and then this outer ring pushes down onto it, which is this collar. Now this collar, if you wanted to, you could put down afterwards. It's just as easy to do this, because what I tend to do is I'll mask it and we'll spray it. But then this is like a bayonet system. It just comes up here. I don't know if it has a top and bottom, I don't think it does, but it has a bayonet, and it goes in and then you twist it one way or the other. Can't remember which way it is now. Oh, I didn't glue it, that's alright. But you might see this one comes in. We can spray this as a separate from the collar. Okay, but as you say, it is like a bayonet fit, so it will come in, this collar comes in, and then it will do like a quarter turn. If we get these lined up, there we go. Okay, just making sure there isn't a tooth system on it. But yeah, it does come in and then locks just like that. Okay, so that's your engine put in. Absolutely lovely, and again, a beautiful piece of work. This is the thing, this is where we said before a million times all the modelling, you can go as far or as little as you want to go with this one. Obviously we've got some beautiful references, feel free to pause now, okay, but we've got some references here, we do a close up for you, of the engine. Okay, just like that. So as you can see, we've got a lot of plumbing down in this area. If you're going to have it shown, all right, then you might be thinking, okay, well maybe it's time to actually get a little bit more wiring, a little bit more creative, and we can go in. We've still got to put all these little yellow tabs in, and there is a little bit more work to go on here. But even if you've got some blue cabling, or you can pre-paint some blue lead wire, you can feed that around. We've got a little bit of red down on there, so forth and so on. And then again, we've got different angles of the engines. You can see on the other side, you've got some of that red coming out. That intake area is obviously going to be quite dark, and some nice detailed shots down there showing that one. And then again, we can look at the back end. Absolutely fantastic. And we can see we've got this whiteness down in there, this ceramic system on the inside of the nozzle, which we're going to try and recreate as well. And that's why, to be honest, we've got the nozzle as a complete loose fit. It needs to be a loose fit anyway for actually putting it in. Got it locked in there now, so if I can get this off, we'll be okay. There we go. Alright, so what we can do is we can actually paint in here as a separate, alright, so we can actually come in, and to be honest, to do that white work, what we're going to do is a very thin mix of washes and things to actually get that to come out, and then we can actually dirty up your finger to get those in and blend in with some pigments and things just to get those areas. So what we can do now, we're happy how that is at the first stage like it. We're going to get over to the spray bay and we're going to give this a coat of silver right the way over it, and we're going to do a few different tones with it, but I think we're going to freehand. We're not going to go in with masking and everything else. We're going to freehand those on. Same we can do down here on these turkey feathers. We've got this area that actually has them coming off. You can buy a mask set if you wanted to. It has these pre-cut in, so you can spray the black first, pop them on and do it, or you can do them freehand afterwards. Personal choice. You can actually just pop them in and put them in if you wanted to do it. Both ways. Okay, and then this back collar is a totally different color as well. This is going to be quite a black color on this one, but this little edge you can see just on the inside, that wants to be silver. So again, personal choice on exactly when you want to spray and do that. And we can do the little truck as well, so we want to do the little truck. But what we're going to do, we'll get this one over, we'll have a look at some of the colors we're thinking about using for this particular one, and then when we're happy we can then pick out the colours, we'll put them down, and then afterwards we're going to come back and we'll do hand painting to really liven this up and bring it to life.